So good morning and welcome to this very exciting session. My name is Sheila Birgen. I am the country lead for Global Alliance Africa, a project in Innovate UK KTN. I'll be the moderator for this session. I hope you can hear me clearly. I'll be the one moderating this session. So I'll give you a bit of background around what we're doing, who KTN is, about Global Alliance Africa. Then I'll hand it over to my colleague Veronica, who will give us a background information around our Innovate UK Women in Innovation and Young Innovators programs. And then I'll introduce very brilliant panelists who've joined us today, and then we will have the panel discussion. Just a sec so that I can be able to share my screen. Okay, let me do this. No, I'm sharing the wrong. Can you see my screen? Okay, so we are Innovate UK KTN, and we are the largest innovation network in the UK. We are really very focused on 5 main pillars in our people, and so the people who work within KTN, but also the different communities we interact with, both at a local level and international level. We are also very keen on providing deep expertise. So we have very specific sectors we work within, and have expert in those sectors. We believe in powerful connections, so we try to convene people, bring people together, make meaningful engagements and introductions to be able to drive powerful connections within business. And we really believe that connections are important. We are deliberate around shaping the future. And so we work with different innovation communities that are also aligned with that. But ultimately, we are strong believers in positive change. So we create diverse connections that drive positive change. We do this by collaborating globally to create valuable international connections with innovation and innovators as well. So I'd like to introduce a bit more about our the different sectors we work within. We have truly a cross-cutting ways of simplifying complexities. So as you can see from my screen, we work in a diverse in diverse sectors, cutting all the way from space to energy to digital economy to chemistry to health and agriculture. And we have been able to work with a network of over 45,000 unique organizations who 80% happen to be SMEs. We've worked with over 200,000 innovators in UK and now in more than 30 countries. We work in sectors because it allows you to have a deeper understanding of those core communities, but also plugging the different communities with each other where they'll be able to work with one another. Our impact so far is we've been able to have at least 66% introductions for different organizations to collaborate. We've seen a 42% outcome in reach faster by 1 to 2 years. Of course, increased investment in research and development, and increased in investment as well through our engagement with other partners. So directly through KTN and through our other partners. So I'll introduce to you very briefly the Global Alliance Africa project. It came about after the visit by the former Prime Minister Theresa May, when she visited Kenya, and it continues with the current government as well, not Kenya, Africa, I mean, where she stated that we have a shared passion for entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation, and now is the best time for UK companies to strengthen their partnership with Africa and drive prosperity and overseas. And she is not just unique to Africa. It's a world, it's a problem that is faced across the globe. And so Global Alliance Africa was born from that. We have 4 main interventions. So we would like to strengthen the investment pipeline in sector specific. In Kenya, we're working in e-mobility, agriculture, and circular economy, sorry. And then we also work within communities. So we have solutions, and then partnered with different organizations that in Kenya, Uganda, and Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa, especially with government, to be able to deploy open innovation, for instance, which brings together large organizations and matches them with small organizations to be able to have commercial relationships beyond just the initial research phase. And we also work in knowledge governance, in innovation governance knowledge exchange. So that's mostly strategic knowledge around policy and innovation within government and how that can be implemented and scaled globally. So in Kenya, we have already an innovation action plan in Eldoret. We have an advisory group that predominantly has most of the advisory members are women. We also have open innovation challenges that we've launched with Flamingo Horticulture and with We Center. We are also launching another challenge with Diageo through EABM. So in a nutshell, that's who we are. I think I'll talk a bit more about our work much later in the presentation, but I'd like to shift the focus a bit now to why we're here and the objective of this Women in Innovation and Science series. What we'd like to do is first of all, to have a clear understanding of what is innovation, because it's a word that has been thrown around a lot, who's an innovator, and to also engage media in having these discussions around inclusive innovation, around diversity in innovation, and equality as well in innovation. And so the main objective of this series is to ensure that we increase media innovators at national level, to be able to showcase and spotlight work that diverse innovators in Kenya are working on, expanding and refining media understanding of innovation in its entirety, highlighting the multifaceted impact be scaled from regional level to national level, and of course beyond our borders, and to also bring awareness to works that we are doing as KTN in our countries, Hopefully that will build a more meaningful and sustained relationship with media, but also to support ongoing programs and innovators in this session. So I'll hand it over to my colleague, Veronica, who will just tell us about the Women in Innovation program and our Young Innovators program. Veronica, to you.
Thank you so much, Sheila. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's really lovely to be here with you today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Veronica. I'm Diversity and Inclusion Manager at Innovate KTN and Program Lead for one of our programs for the Women in Innovation program. Moving on to the next slide. Sheila mentioned about our purpose at Innovate KTN to create diverse connections to drive positive change. And our vision is to establish a network of innovators so powerful its ideas will change the world. But of course, we cannot talk about positive change nor about powerful innovation ecosystem without addressing the need for diversity, without attracting and supporting innovators who, the way I personally see it, represent the diversity of those they serve through their businesses. The main programs through which we support underrepresented groups in business innovation are, as my colleague Sheila mentioned, our programs Women Innovation and the Young Innovators. A quick overview on the Women in Innovation program. Innovate UK launched this program in 2016 after research revealed that just 1 in 7 applications for Innovate UK support came from women. Also, 1 in 3 women said their gender had negatively impacted their career in innovation. And then Innovate UK said that it's important to do something about it, right, to address it. And I guess testimony of the fact that there was a huge need for this type of programs was that then Innovate UK had 70% increase in women applying for grants since 2016, which from my point of view is it tells everything. And since then as well, we have engaged a community of over 9,000 women in innovation. And by we, I mean Innovate UK KTN, of course, in partnership with Innovate UK, who is the main funder. We also have 4 awards awarded since 2016, almost 2,300 applicants for all rounds. We have awarded 118 women over 5 million in funding. And as an example of media coverage for the current cohort, we have 111 pieces of coverage, and we have reached over 32 million people. And we have also tried to build impactful partnerships with different NGOs and to the investor community as well, because as you may know, the women don't get investment at the same rates as men, which is something we need to address as well. Moving on to a quick overview on the Young Innovators program, another program that my colleague Solen is running. This is similar to the Women Innovation, meaning the aim is to address underrepresentation of innovators. This program started in 2018 to recognize young people from across the UK with great business ideas who have the potential to become successful entrepreneurs and future leaders in innovation. Basically, the ultimate aim is to encourage young people to innovate and to foster young talent that will then grow into the UK innovation ecosystem, thereby increasing its diversity and inclusion. And again, the way I see it, it's so important to empower people at an early age, right? And then they will be equipped to thrive and to build successful businesses. So I personally find this program very, very impactful. I will not read everything on the slides. You have here some impactful data. I'm sure you'll receive the slides after this. I guess the most impactful data from this slide for me is the fact that based on the research before we started the program, for example, 54% of the young people said that they would like to run their own company, but only 8% describe themselves as entrepreneurial. So that shows you there is a need for an intervention, and we're trying to do that with this beautiful program. Moving on to the next slide, it's just a couple of examples of how we amplify women voices. So here on the slide, you have 2 of the lovely young innovators, Jasmine and Karen, supported through the program. So what we do, we basically, in partnership with PR agencies, we have PR and media coverage. We tell the story of the awardees across as many channels as we can in order to reach wide audiences. We maximize moments and the social media assets that we create. We also create content aligned with, with our aim to debunk stereotypes as well of what an innovator is and how an innovator looks like. We raise the profile of the awardees with a focus as well on those from underrepresented groups. And we also build awardee capacity in PR, media relations, and social media, because of course it's important for them to be spotlighted out there, like I said, to a wider audience. Moving on to the next slide, just a couple more of examples of the social media assets that we create for our awardees. On the left-hand side, you have two of our lovely women innovation awardees, Leslie and Winnie. They are part of the current cohort. There are 38 women in total that we support currently. And on the right-hand side, you have Langa from one of the young innovators, just as an example. Moving on to the next slide, just a quick overview about what we're doing when it comes to campaigns and webinars. So we offer the opportunity for young innovators and women in innovation to challenge what we all think about what innovators look, sound, are like, as part of our commitment to changing perceptions that serve no one. You have here on the right-hand side just an image on our past campaigns on debunking stereotypes, about what does being an innovator mean to you, and we've interviewed young innovators and women in innovation. And we also deliver and organize a webinar series as part of the Women in Innovation program. These are designed to start conversations, share stories, and provide inspirational advice from women and male allies at the heart of the discussion. And they also provide practical advice and tools and highlight opportunities for innovation support to accelerate the innovation journey of our community of women innovation. And you can see there are 4 lovely faces. That was one of our first webinar, actually, about making your own path as a woman innovation, as part of the Let's Talk About webinar series that started in 2018. And as a kind of like a final mention from my side about our International Women's Day, this is one of our dedicated events through which we celebrate gender diversity and innovation, and we organize it on a yearly basis. And the main aim is basically to inspire emerging women innovators from all walks of life, to highlight the many inspirational women role models working within the UK, and also to bring together allies and strengthen the UK as a world leader in championing a diverse, inclusive innovation ecosystem. This year, for example, these images are basically some social media assets from this year's event. We focus mainly on driving powerful conversations on important topics from the diversity and inclusion area, such as the role of empathy, inclusion, and vulnerability in social innovation, intersectionality in the innovation ecosystem, and also why allyship needs to be a commitment from all of us. So we had 10 sessions in total. We had 385 unique registrations. We had almost 50 speakers from all walks of life. And we also made connections to investors, to 5 award winners. They had the chance to pitch their business idea in front of investors, which proved to be very impactful. I recommend to watch the recordings of the conference. So basically, we recorded all sessions. I can share with all of you to my colleagues the link to our YouTube recordings. And I guess just a big thank you. And you have here on my last slide, the general email addresses that you can use to email us, the Women Innovation one and Young Innovators one. We're always happy to hear from as many people as possible, and to create connections and to support in any way we can as well. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Veronica. So I think we'll go to the panel. I'd like to introduce my brilliant panelist this morning. I'll ask Tara to just please put the poster so that the audience can see who they are. And I'll make an introduction, and then we'll go straight into the panel. Thank you. So we have today very diverse panel. I'd like to also mention this. This dialogue is important to us as KTN, not just because we are deliberate around ensuring there's more visibility around inclusive, diverse, and equitable ecosystems, but also because we would like to bring the different pillars of innovation in the way that we look at innovation. And so we have someone representing academia here today, someone representing association that works with hubs and enablers who support entrepreneurs and startups, an innovator, and an investor. So we have Professor Lizzie Mambury, who's an associate professor in University of Eldoret. She is a plant pathologist by training, with a PhD from University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa, and a master's from Australia. And she's also done a postdoctoral research in Germany, so very, very experienced researcher, and she's worked with over 30 postgraduate students. So welcome, Professor Liz. We have Amanueke, who is a partnerships and ecosystem manager for Africa at Catapult VC. Catapult VC is an investment company. They focus on high scalable impact tech startups. They currently have a portfolio of 138 companies across 35 countries. Timame has been working with within the innovation and technology space for a while now. She was head of startup engagement at Liquid Intelligent Company, former Liquid Telecom, and she's also quite diverse in supporting startups within the Kenyan ecosystem. We have Kemoe Magdalen, who's the founder and executive director of EldoHub. She's also the chair of the chairperson of Association of Countrywide Hubs. Very diverse experience in working as a hub manager and leader, but also supporting innovation hubs across the country and working with AfriLabs and other organizations across the continent. We also have Jerry Maria, who's a diverse advocate, a diversity advocate. She's also a social inclusive expert and a trainer. She's the founder of Jerry Maria Foundation. They're working in ensuring that they advance the lives of children and adults with cerebral palsy and their families within Kenya. Their main objective is to include awareness creation, spearheading advocacy, and facilitating early intervention and support system through TED. So welcome to the panelists. I think I'll go straight to the questions. In case you have any questions, please post it in the chat, and then I think we will pick it up from there. Please also remember we are celebrating. This is still the International Women's Month, so it's quite an honor to have this panel in such a month. So the first question I'll ask Dr. Lizzie. What is an innovator to you, and why is it important to have women work women's work represented within this innovation space? Who is an innovator? What is innovation?
Thank you very much, Sheila. To me, I would say that an innovator is actually an individual who introduces new ideas and new ways of doing things. So while this product and service will already be in the market, it's already been invented and it's already in the market, you find that the innovator will be able to improve or make some kind of significant contribution to the invention And this can actually be specifically for a certain group of people or for a community. So you find that it is not very common that you have an innovation that is targeting everybody. It can actually target a small community. And that is how we actually begin, by knowing that the innovation is actually acceptable to the community. So this makes the innovation quite valuable in economic terms. In fact, you find that in modern manufacturing, actually, you find that inventions, innovations, it could be a service, it could be a product, you find that it is worth much more because sometimes it's not even tangible, it's actually intangible, but you find that it is more, it has got more value than actually the raw material, which is tangible. So you find that the cultural value actually is much higher than the raw material. So this is what an innovator does: changes, introduces, and makes something which is already existing and makes it better. It could be a service or actually a product.
Okay, thank you. And it's not specific to any sector. It cuts across.
I think, yeah, it can cut across any sector, but you begin by having it targeting a small community. You find that maybe this is the way, like in the small communities, you find that this is the way our ancestors or our grandparents used to dry maize or store maize or get rid of pests of maize. But you find that you can actually improve on it and make it much better. So maybe you're targeting that community, and eventually you'll find that other communities are able to adopt to it. So it is not targeting anyone in specific in the beginning, but actually you look at your community and realize that we could do this much better. This could be better. And then you improve on it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. So I think I'll ask Njeri this question. So you can briefly just tell us about your work as an innovator. I look at you as such. And what are some of the challenges you faced as innovator, coming up with a new approach or a new way of doing things, or trying to introduce something new to the society to be able to look at I think cerebral palsy in general, or inclusiveness in general, because especially in a community in Africa, where we are always scared of talking about such issues openly. So what are some of the challenges that as an innovator you faced, but also how did you start?
Thank you, Sheila, and thank you for having me here today. I like the definition Lizzie gave about an innovator. I think it checks out all the boxes. I'm taking a very wide approach into innovation, where I'm changing a system of how our culture and our communities have viewed and have valued people with different impairments. And so with my foundation, we're focusing on the value we give to children and adults with cerebral palsy and different impairments. And we begin from the family perspective and the early intervention and the awareness in the family. And then we start forth into the community. And you said we come from a community where disability is taboo. It is seen as a curse, a punishment from God, even a burden to the people around and the community. And so coming up with the innovation to show people the bottom line of both the social and the economic value of people with disabilities. So whether it's education or implementation of the right policies and practices, ensuring that we understand that people with different impairments interaction with the community is a first barrier. And for me, in this line of work, the biggest challenge has been the unconscious and conscious biases. One of having a disability and another of being a woman. So there are many assumptions and judgments of what I can do or what I can't do. Is a couple everywhere I go. But through awareness and execution, showing up to the game, showing up to the table, and doing me despite of the limitations has been a solution for me.
A very good answer. Thank you for that. And I think I'll build up to that a perception a bit that you mentioned around first being a woman and being an innovator. And the challenges I think that just even that alone first brings about. So I think I'll come to Magdalen. You have a computer science background. You've run a business as you've also come up with solutions as an innovator, but you also now support different groups of people, either through the association or your work within Eldo Hub. What are some of the common misconceptions that you've seen people have about women in innovation, or just in women innovators, or women in innovation in general? You're muted.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Sorry, I was on mute, and thank you so much for that question. I think the most misconception which are, and I'll just, let me base this on my personal story and growing up, in the village and, having to tell my parents that I want to pursue a career in sciences, and, in the village, there's just a culture where, we are trained to kind of lay back, and they felt that, a career in science is not meant for girls. So I remember when I told my parents that I wanted to pursue a career in computer science, they told me, no, what about you considering a career in nursing or teaching? I think they felt that nursing and teaching is more women friendly, or they gave several reasons, but I told them that, this is what I want. It was really, really hard for me to convince them. And I remember they got to know that I did computer science much later. Because after all, they send you to school and they don't know that you've registered a course in computer science. So that's the perception again, that, women cannot do, that's an engineering job. That's something which it's only meant for men. So there's that perception which is more cultural. And I think also it's due to lack of knowledge, because, I think my parents and my relative had good intention, but there is that misconception that, technology and rather engineering is a men's job. And something that we really need to change from when the students are still young, especially when they are in high school. And in high school, that's where they make that decision, career decisions. That's where now we need to come up and talk to them and let them, support them, and tell them that anyone, you can be anything that you want to be. You can be an entrepreneur, you can be an innovator if you want to be. And we have these women, and as you've seen the history, that also even in the media, there are so many women like Grace Hopper and other women innovators who are able to create different innovation, but we don't see them. We don't see their innovation being talked about. We learned much later that, these innovators started this in computer science and all that. So there is that a lot of misconception around women innovation. Sometimes personally, some of the things that I've experienced is being underestimated, that, you know, I can be able to achieve one or two things. And we have to kind of fight and showcase and work as 100 times more than what effort maybe a man can put, because of the misconception that that already exists out there. So that's some of the misconceptions which have really led to some of these sad realities. And I think Veronica was able to share some of these statistics, and that's why there are very few women, less than 5% of patents which are held by women. Women are unable to raise funding. And also only 25% of top innovation firms are led by women. Women account for 20% of Fortune 500 chief innovators. Of course, in science and technology, you all know all those misconceptions. You all know the statistic that there is 16% wage gender gap among professionals in this field, and 95, and they say that half as many women as men are likely to start a business, but then 95% of women who do start their business fail within the first year. It's because of all these misconceptions, being underestimated. There also sometimes we fight internal, more what I call imposter syndrome. Which comes around because of the cultures that the culture that we've been trained to be more laid back, and this is something really I struggle with, even starting in the first. When I was, as an innovator, as a person who worked in the science technology, first of all, when I was working, I was always the only woman or among 2 or 3 women working in the ICT department. And it's, again, because of all these misconceptions around women and girls. So you can imagine now starting, being an innovator, starting something and building it up, or all the challenges, all the misconceptions that we face as women, and as women as women growing as women, growing in this ecosystem. So I think maybe a call to action is more engaging more women as when they are young, showcasing the women innovations that already exist. And I know this is all about media and enabling, or of course, the media plays a key role in terms of breaking those bias and rather telling all these stories, some of the women that have been able to succeed. So thank you, and back to you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think storytelling is very important, and showcasing, I think also, because one, it breaks those barriers of misconception, but it also allows young women to be able to see that this has been done, or it's being done, for them to be able of women in any type of investment, including research funding, is quite low. So as an investor, and being a woman sitting on that side of my internet is unstable. I hope you can still hear me. Sitting on that side of things, Timame. One, the misconception around women in investment, and 2, how can we improve storytelling or bringing more highlights to the work that women are doing to be able to finance them? Is there a possibility, and is media doing enough for both investors and women looking for funding?
Great, thank you so much, Sheila, for asking me that question. I think for me, I see it on both sides of, let's call it a problem. And I think one of the challenges for women that, sorry, I'm missing a name, that Magdalen has mentioned is simply fundraising and how much funding goes to women. So one thing I usually say is women are over-mentored and underfunded. So it's really exciting to have these sessions and have places for women to sit and have all these events for women as well. But then, so we can put a lot of money into that, but how much money is actually going into women businesses? I think for me, the interesting part is I sit on an impact investment side. So that's one of a key pillar that we want to effect in our investments, but then still realize that there's a huge gap. Is media doing enough to address this? I'd say yes and no, but then in the recent years in Africa, I think it's picking up a lot. A lot of people are writing about it now because a lot of women have started raising money, just to show that it's not impossible for them to raise money, but then it's really difficult, sorry about that. It's really difficult for them to find these avenues. One thing I find with, I think, women innovators and how they approach themselves, I think, and approach funding is, I think, number one thing is timing. Their businesses have the ability to raise money, but then there's a bit of timidness when it comes to fundraising. There's also, I think there's less women that come to pitch when men do when it comes to competitions and different avenues and platforms when it comes to fundraising. So even the way they pitch is a little bit more different. I know men come with a lot more aggression. And I'm not saying that, I think women should then approach these platforms the same way that men do, with a lot of the confidence that men do. So have a lot of confidence in, number one, your models and what you're building, have a lot of confidence in how much money you want to raise, confidence in their valuation. So we find that a lot of women are undervaluing themselves when they come to ask for money, and then therefore raising more money than men. So like completely value your business. There's a lot of stats to do this. And I think have so much faith in your models and your teams when you come about. And then also, I think the media portrayal of women innovators now is a bit skewed. I mean, a lot of the women we talk about, even people who have raised money, you'll still find people referring to how many kids they had when they were raising money, how many other things they had to do. Well, they don't say the same things about men. So I think women should be portrayed in the same way that it does. This is what she's doing. This is why she's building. Talk about her business and not the challenges she's going through behind growing a business. I think that's really important.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think in that same light of representation and how that can impact different communities that I think as innovators, especially as women, we work within. Dr. Lizzie, how do you think innovations can have different impact from different groups, especially within academia? Because I think we've been having this discussion around funding of research, especially even if it's women-specific products or services, but also within those different groups and communities that innovators work within. How can innovation improve the impact that we have within those communities? And the work that you've been doing, for instance, how does it address this specific issue?
Thank you very much. You asked about how the kind of work we do at our institutions can impact the community. Now, one problem that we have is that you'll find that universities are doing a lot of work and it may not be able to reach the community. And I think one of the problems, one of the issues, how this arises is because some of these things are not out there. You know, the information is not out there with the community. But in cases where now you find this out there, right now you find some of our researchers, and most of the funding requires that you actually work with the community. You know, you start with them right from the beginning and work with them so that they can be able to own the technology. Because if you take this technology to the people, one thing that most people don't realize is that innovations are actually market driven. You can have a very beautiful innovation, but nobody wants it out there because it is not cultural friendly. You can have something very nice, but the kind of community that you're targeting, you've not worked with many other people, you've not worked with different kinds of people in that community. You see, for example, I am a scientist. But then when I come out with something very nice, and maybe I've not worked with an anthropologist, I've not worked with members of that community, there are different dynamics in a community. So you'll find that really your innovation does not have any impact in that community because it's not going to be accepted. We have many different examples, like in cases where at the beginning where they took mosquito nets to people in fishing areas. 1 year later, you find malaria is still an issue in that community because you took these mosquito nets and gave them out to the people, but you didn't work with anyone else. You didn't work with the social scientists. You never worked with the anthropologist to tell you the community, the hierarchies in that particular community. So people took the mosquito nets and they went fishing. And we have various other examples, like in the case where there was one issue with public health, and they went and found out that these people were suffering because they didn't have pit latrines. So they went and built pit latrines, but that community does not believe in going into a closed area, an enclosed area, into toilets. So they went and converted those pit latrines to chicken houses. So I think if you have to have impact with your innovation, you have to start working with that community right from the beginning so that you co-create with them and they own that innovation and they feel proud of it. Otherwise, you can just be doing your nice innovations in the lab, but really it does not matter to anyone. Some of these innovations are not culturally friendly, as I said earlier. So I think if we want to really get people to own their innovation, get them right from the beginning. Get different stakeholders into your research, into your innovation at different levels of that innovation, and ask them what it is that they want. Because you could be doing something and maybe they don't want it. Maybe they have got other needs. So impact is very, very important, as you've mentioned. Our innovation should actually be able to impact the community. So the kind of work that we are doing at our university right now, University of Eldoret, we have like the people in agriculture, we have an outreach center, and you find that they bring in the farmers and they ask them, what are the priorities? They look at the priorities and they rank them and they decide this is what they need first. And they work with them right from the word go. And these people are able to adopt that innovation and go out with it very proudly and they own it. So I think in that way, you're able to impact the community. Thank you.
I agree with you. Thank you for that answer. I think in the same light with the impacting community, I think then definitely there's scalability of that to national level and how, those innovations can be able to impact our national development and priorities in national development. So Njeri, a question to you is, what role do you think innovation plays in fulfilling national development priorities, and how is your work contributing to that, especially within the sector you're working in?
She's on mute.
You're muted. Can't hear you.
Okay, sorry. So I agree with 100% with Lizzie and what has been said. And one thing I stand for is make something people need and people want. And that has more impact in general. And yeah, through human-centered design in the processes, involving them from the word go to the final exit strategy, you have product or service or system that belongs to the community. no longer years. And when I'll give an example of the work I'm doing, which is empowering capacity building of rehabilitation services in Kikri town through early intervention. So for people with disabilities, early intervention is very important. And in every stage of their life, whether in health, whether in education, whether in transition from education to work, the earlier the intervention, the better. And so one of the main barriers of accessing rehabilitation services or early intervention was access and accessibility in terms of financial implications and other commitments for the families and the child not being a priority. So we have ensured that we have a system as soon as a child is known to have a disability in Kikuyu, we are notified. And then we are able to take them to a therapy clinic, a therapy center. And from the therapy center, depending on his achievements, on the progress, we are able to introduce them to school and so forth and so forth. And this is such a basic system, working with the community and the community stakeholders have made the system scalable and not only in practice but in policy. So now we have the evidence and the data to show this is possible, this is working. And I believe in national development and in scaling up programs or services, you need the evidence base to know it is possible, and then you need a structure of how it's made possible. So those two things, if innovators can first aim to do it where they are and build it perfectly and effectively where they are, then it will be so much easier to scale it up on a national level.
Thank you. Thanks for that. And I think in scaling those innovation, I think I'll just ask Timame, I know she has to leave. We will just have this session until 11:10 because we started slightly late. So just last question to you, Timame, what practical or tangible action do you think media can take on to be able to support more women innovators that then I think triggers allows investors to be able to know what is happening, but ultimately for investors to invest in women-led or women-owned businesses?
Yeah, I think one thing, even from what I said in the past, I think highlighting women innovations over highlighting the women first and foremost. I think a lot of times there's a lot of reports on business and even male-led businesses. There's never a lot going on about who this guy is and what he did before starting the company. And I think for women, it's a little different because we're always reporting about who they are, challenges they have to face. I think highlighting their businesses, the kind of services they're offering, why they're doing what they're doing is really important and what impact they're having on the society. So the business takes precedence over who this person is. But it's also great to highlight women entrepreneurs, and I think, and women in leadership as well at these businesses. I think somewhere like CIO have been doing a great job in telling us which women, especially in Kenya, in the recent months have joined the C-suite and what they're doing, and then highlighting relevant qualifications to this rather than the challenges that they're having. So highlighting these innovations is great, and why they're impacting these spaces, especially in tech. I think not a lot is being done until recent years. And I think a great reference then from this panel is also just reading reports that have been written about this. I think Brighter Bridges did a great job in showing how underfunded women are, and even how women that raised money are not raising as much money, and what these women had to do to raise the kind of money they did. Because I mean, male businesses are raising 30 plus millions in seed rounds, while women are raising thousands. Doesn't make sense. So I think just speaking a lot about this, and even showing, highlighting what kind of investors then are investing in these women businesses, and who is approachable then by women to raise money, I think is really important, because women will lean then to these funds and will know where to find their money. So then speaking about the places that they can raise money and who to approach is really great.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Timami. So I think I'll ask the same question round. What media can do within your specific vertical to be able to highlight the work that women are doing? So I'll come to Magdalen, and then I'll come back to Dr. Lizzie, and then we'll finish with Njeri. Practical and tangible action that media can do to highlight the work that women are doing in your sector. Magdalen.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much. And I think I'll also agree with Temame that we need to highlight more of women's stories, and we need to talk about the business, because many a time, and this I see when I get invited in some of the events, it's more about, oh, we have to be inclusive about women, and can you come and talk about how women, it's really good that we are discussing and highlighting all this, but I want you to invite me to come and talk about my business. I want you to invite me to come and talk about artificial intelligence, blockchains, just the way you invite men to come and discuss about more like issue-based. But if we keep inviting women to the media houses just to talk about inclusion issues, I know it's very important. The way now we are discussing about innovation, and the very good discussion around this, but let it be about our expertise. And I think this will be more sustainable and more like highlighting what our potential is. So some call to action is we need to provide authoritative reporting about and for women, especially those in rural areas. And I think also this is where the media can, we need to develop, as much as we are looking at the frameworks, international frameworks, we need to localize, and we need to talk about our audience. And I remember yesterday or the other day at the Pwani Innovation Week, one of the ladies was talking about, innovation. I have an idea, but I don't think I'll raise money because my idea is not innovation. So that means they already do not understand what innovation, because we ask her, what is your idea? And the idea that she talks about is innovation, which has a great potential, but somehow we need to, the media need to talk about content which is audience based, so that they understand what innovation is about. When we talk about all these all these big words that we talk about, are they able to understand? And yeah, especially another again to both youth and women as well. So news leaders need to be news leaders. We needs also to be committed to a more inclusive news, especially in content. We know they are the ones who make sure that certain content is approved for that. So we need our news leaders to be more committed. And then also we need to make sure that women who occupy roles in the newsroom, especially senior position, are also women, because they are better in articulating the issues which affect women and girls. And then we need to have more programs which increase skills, leadership and abilities, and more mentoring and development programs in the media houses. And this will enable, that those program which will enable them to have that innovative mindset, and also, taking the women through very understandable and very simplified way of running their businesses, as well as showcasing the businesses that the women have, and more specifically to talking about women. And then when they are invited in the panels, let it not be an afterthought that, oh, we did not include women. Let it be part of the process. Let's have, let's not have all male panel. Let's add the women because of them running and being successful in the businesses. Thank you, and back to you.
Thank you, thank you. Lizzie, how can media support women in science and research? Muted.
Thank you so much, Sheila. It is true what Magdalen says and what Timami has said. Actually, women are not really seen on television and radio. This is women innovators. And also what they have said that this gender imbalanced picture and the exclusion of women voices in society actually reflects systematic gender biases and can reinforce harmful gender stereotypes. So that one we have heard from them. And it also ignores the skills of women and accomplishments. They're not really being seen because they're not being represented in this space, and this can result in inequalities and perception. And also we find that the women experts, sometimes women are seen as not knowing what they're actually doing, because innovation is actually associated with technology, and technology is associated with men. But innovation can be more than technology. It can also be in the humanitarian areas. It can be in social areas. It can be in other areas. So for media actually to help this, to help women actually to be seen, because we want to break this gender gap and inequality of how women are seen in innovation. So I think sharing and promoting their success stories, as Magdalen has said, let them come out and let them talk about success stories. And in addition to this, women can also, once they're invited to talk about their success stories, let them also talk about the challenges that they've encountered. Because most women maybe had an idea in the beginning, and no one wants to listen to ideas. People want to see products. So once they talk about the challenges that they faced when it comes to asking for funding, because they're going to say, we are not going to ask for funding because nobody wants to listen to our ideas. But an idea is actually what comes out. Once you listen to the idea, something comes out of it. And also, apart from just sharing their success stories and talking about challenges, we can also, media can also increase visibility of female leaders and innovation experts, and also let them come out and bring out the mentors at all stages of innovation. Let them tell the women, yeah, there are mentors here, and you can actually access funding for your innovations. You should not fear to fail, because women are also seen as having short-term thinking. They lack resources, they lack collaboration, they lack partners. But once they come out in the media and talk about their ideas and they're featured with their stories, then you can also encourage collaborators. Once they come out in the media, bring out also the collaborators, the industrial partners, the customers, also the competitors. And once they come out, then they're not going to have, they're not going to fear. And also these ideas, show them, let them come out in media and let them be told that there's market for your ideas, and we can actually bring out mentors to you. Let them actually be empowered through the media and be told that actually there's more to this. Your ideas can actually be brought together and actually be focus on one specific thing. As I said earlier on, you can actually have a lot of ideas which are not focused anywhere to a particular community. What is it that you want? And they can also be connected to customers. The media can actually connect them to the customers, and this can actually bring them out so that they do not actually have to fear. So, and also have some innovation strategies, a clear direction, so that they do not risk misalignment. So this is how I think the media can actually help women, innovators come out. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Lizzie. Jerry, in your closing remarks, how can media support the work that you're doing?
Okay. Loud and clear, the media should create platforms into demystifying innovation and women in innovation, and being able to shift the narrative of the role of women. And innovation for women is such a complex conversation, yet so basic. The woman who goes into her kitchen and does not have one ingredient and changes the whole recipe and makes a new dish, that is innovation. So how do we take this very complex yet basic conversation and give it a platform in which we can discuss it with the women and also teach it to the upcoming generation? So I think platform, give us a platform, give us somewhere we can share our voices and tell our stories and shift those narratives.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Thanks to also the people who are watching us online. I know we limited the number of people attending this session, but because of time, I think just send us the question. We will send it to our panelists, or we'll organize. This is a series. This is our first event in this series. So we are really, really excited to have this discussion and to constantly bring media and innovators together. So thanks to everyone who's attended. Thank you to our panelists. I hope we can continue to have these discussions, and please share your work with us as KTN. We definitely want to highlight the work that you're doing within the media space, but we also have our media team and comms team that will help us in pushing this conversation. Our call to action is really to ask media to increase space for innovation, especially for diverse innovators. We know it's not easy to find those stories, but we are here to support you to ensure that we highlight that. We'd also like to ask media to create dedicated reporting spaces for innovation, highlighting people who've broken biases in the different sectors that they're working in, but also in media, ensuring that they break biases in reporting around women in business and innovation in general, because it's, I know it's not easy, but I think stories are there. We can easily find women innovators and we can find diverse innovators. And I think in spotlighting the work that the different innovation networks and innovators are doing locally in the Kenyan diaspora, I think we will bring a change to storytelling, we'll bring a change to how we view innovation in general, but ultimately I think we will have a little bit more impact in our communities if the stories are changed. Because of time, I'll ask that we end the session. Thank you so much. We look for your questions. To my colleagues, Tara, Janet, Basil, Kirsten, and Veronica in absentia, thank you also for organizing this. I'm looking forward to having this discussion. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about. And I'm looking forward to, I think, continue the conversation around this. So thank you so much and have a lovely day.